Hey, this is Francisca, and this is my mid crisis life. Um, so, today, something that's really been coming through to me that I want to talk about is to do with attachment. So, there's like all these different meanings to the word attachment. Like, there's like the theoretical understanding of attachment, there's, you know, an attachment to a person, an attachment, like a Hoover attachment, all these different things. And I think about like, there's all these different forms of attachment, but actually, really, it just means to be like attached to something. So there has to be something outside of yourself that is either attaching itself to you or that you are attaching yourself to. And it's like, from love to enmeshed and codependent relationships to like parental attachment, all the way down to like, parasitic attachment, the way that a parasite will attach itself to its host. As I say, all of these things are something outside of the self, right? That you're attaching to. So it's like, because it's something outside of the self, it's going to be judged as something outside of the self, right? How we understand and how we judge something that is not us and hasn't come from us and isn't born of us, hasn't been through our experiences, doesn't know our mind, doesn't know our thoughts, our feelings, doesn't have the, isn't the sum of all of those parts, because we can't possibly know the different parts of something else. It gets judged as something separate to us, right? So people talk a lot about wanting to be non-judgmental, and people talk, particularly in social work, about wanting to be non-judgmental. And I think it's just a load of crock, to be perfectly honest. Like, not because I disagree with being non-judgmental or being non-discriminatory. Of course, it goes without saying, but it's a load of crock in the sense of it's pretty much impossible to be non-judgmental. It's an impossible feat. It's an impossible task. Because the thing is like, as human beings, we have to judge something to be able to categorize it, to be able to know what it is. So, we need to know whether this thing that's walking up and talking to us, is it like a human being or is it a dog? Is it a man or a woman? Is it short or tall? Is it brown or, dark brown or ivory? Like, what category do I put this thing into, right? So that I can not even respond initially, but just so that I can understand and quantify what this thing is, so that I can categorize it, right? Because otherwise we'd just be all fucking anomalies walking around talking to other anomalies, and we wouldn't really be able to define the difference between having a conversation with your mum and having a conversation with a chair. We kind of need to know the difference, right? But the problem is that what often happens is that any associations that we've had with like either a past experience or a community or society that is represented by one or more of those categories that somebody falls into, that usually creates an attachment. And that association, good or bad, is gonna lead to a particular type of response from us or a reaction, because we then, through that association, have an expectation of what that thing is, what it means, what it does, how it behaves, how it's going to interact with you, right? So, for example, I have an expectation that a chair is not going to give me good life advice. I also have an expectation that, there are other people in my life that aren't going to give me very good life advice and probably about as useful as a chair when it comes to that sort of stuff, right? So it's our expectations of what this person is based on, or what this category is based on our association with it, which is based on our past experiences or what society or community tells us that thing should be. We don't have any past experiences with this thing. And all of those things create perception, right? So all of those things then create a perception of reality, of how you're going to engage with something, what you're going to expect from it, what it's capable of offering you, what use it has, all of those things, right? And that perception creates our reality, and we create the reality through our perception because what we believe to be true is simple as that. If we believe the sky was green, the sky would be green. Like, there's no argument about it. So beyond like those kind of like basic or more kind of like baseline fundamental framework type theories around attachment, I don't know if it's a theory, but whatever. There is also, attachment theory, which if you do any kind of humanities, psychology, psychotherapy, social work, sociology, you will probably touch upon attachment theory. And attachment theory is this theory that was put forward by John Bowlby. And he talks about there being that the attachment that a child has to its main caregiver will have a direct impact and a long-lasting impact on that child's ability to achieve, I guess, really, in the long run. I mean, the ability to adapt and achieve is probably a better way to explain it. And this woman called Mary Strange, she did these things called Mary Ainsworth did these things called the Strange situation. Completely lost my train of thought. She did these experiments called Strange Situation. She put a load of toddlers in a room and she changed the environment around them. So first they went in with mom or main carer, then they were left on their own, then a stranger was brought in, and then mum was brought back, and they looked at how these children behaved in each one of these circumstances to see whether they were overly attached to their parent, whether or not they were completely detached from their parent, whether they had any fear of strangers, whether there was any relief when they reconciled with their mom, all of that sort of stuff. And they came up with basically 3 different types of attachment that you could have: an insecure avoidant attachment, an insecure ambivalent attachment, and a secure attachment. And then there were further tests that were done by Thorpe, I think, I want to say, I don't know, some other people, and they came up with what would be described as a disordered attachment. I'm not going to go into all of the different types of attachment right now. Maybe I'll make a video about it on another day, but essentially all of these things are saying that there is a need for there to be some level of healthy attachment, and often that the type of attachment that you have with your parents denotes and develops and shapes the type of personality that you have, and often that these things are generational. So you'll see the same kind of attachment pattern between parent and child down generations. So Bowlby also spoke about something called maternal deprivation, and he named a number of different potential impairments that a child could have or develop as a result of being deprived from maternal love. And just in terms of like the whole maternal deprivation thing, like Bowlby was coming around in the 50s. We'd just finished the war. All of these women wanted to go off and work. And I think there was probably quite a lot of political backing to say no, women should stay at home. So there are those aspects to think about, but the theory itself still holds up, right? So maternal deprivation would really just be deprivation of a main carer, whether that be your mum, your dad, your grandmother, whoever's raising you, foster carer, adopter, yeah, etc., etc. And really what it's talking about is something that I touched on my last video, where I was talking about needing a safe space. And your main caregiver creating a environment around you that feels safe, and being a safe person to you so that you can feel that it's safe to grow, basically, and to grow away from the home, and to do so in a way that is healthy and incremental and grounded and well-rounded and all of that good stuff. Yeah. And I guess it kind of ties in, thinking as well, not just about attachment, but I think it ties into that whole like Maslow's hierarchy of need. So if you don't know what it is, it's just this triangle that starts with your physiological needs being met. So, being able to breathe, have food, have water, have shelter, clothing, sleep, these things that you need in order for your body to actually just be able to function. And it goes up from there through safety and security, love and belonging, self-esteem, and then up to self-actualization, right? And Maslow talks, well, I guess the reason why I brought that up is because similarly, those kind of like physiological basic care needs that everybody needs, it's impossible really to be in a place where you're able to give love or belonging or, I guess I'm thinking like as a parent, if you're constantly worried about not having a roof over your head, or you're homeless, or you can't feed yourself or your kids, then that's more of a survival state. So you're not really going to be thinking about, am I emotionally attuned to them? Am I emotionally available? Like, am I emotionally warm to my kids if your base needs aren't being met? So I guess for me, that's the way that it kind of ties into attachment, and how those kind of socioeconomic problems can have a significant impact on a parent's ability to be able to offer that safe space, whether it be metaphorically or actually physically. But when I think about self-actualization, so Maslow talks about self-actualization being a point at which you can explore your creativity, or where you have spontaneity, where you have acceptance of yourself and others, where you can think more about your morality and those kind of philosophical, existential based questions that, you're searching answers for. You can think more about kind of your purpose and your meaning in this world, right? And what your inner potential is, right? So these are the things that Maslow talks about when he talks about self-actualization. And I think everybody who knows this theory talks about self-actualization like it's this pinnacle of the mountain, and that we need to move through these stages in order to get to a point where we have self-actualized as a person. That is it. I am done. I've hit the pinnacle. I've hit the peak. I am a fully formed person, and there's nothing left for me to learn because I've got all my ducks in a row and I've gone up to the top of the pyramid. But I don't really see it like that. I see it more like self-actualization, or not even that I see it, my experience has been that self-actualization isn't really the peak or the pinnacle. I see it more like a cycle, and I see it more like octaves, that the self-actualization in one point is actually just the baseline of another point, right? That when you push yourself to hit the peak of one level, one plane, that actually just puts you on the precipice of starting a new one. And that's how we evolve, right? Not that we evolve through these stages to this one point and then that's it, done. Game clocked. Just die. You've done everything. Just die, because there's nothing left for you to do, right? And why am I talking about this? Okay. I guess I was inspired by a conversation that I had with my friend the other day, and I was saying to her, like, there's nothing particularly wrong with my life. And actually, I've achieved a lot. You know, I could be content with the fact that, like, I wrote a book and I published it. Like, there's hundreds of thousands of people that would be their life goal, to just do that, and I've managed to do it. I created a Facebook page that got like 10,000 followers in the space of 8 weeks or something like that. Like, it got so good that Facebook shut down my advertising because they thought that I was doing something dodgy. Like, that could be the peak for many people. You know, I've got degree, I've got postgraduate degrees, you know, at a point where I'm pretty self-regulated as a person. I've managed to forgive others and forgive myself and forgive really deep atrocities that took place in my life. I've done that. I've lived abroad for 3 years. I've raised 2 children really successfully on my own. And I have amazing relationships with both my kids, you know. These are things that I could 100% be content with. These are things that have reached a point of, that have actualized, right, in my life. And I've had to evolve within each of those pockets, each of those themes in my life, in order to get to a point where those things have come to fruition, right? But like I say, for me, it's more like a cycle. So there's always more to evolve into. There's always more to learn. There's always more to not just achieve in the sense of like, I've done something, but there's more to excel to, like 100%. So why am I saying this? So I'm saying this there because I've noticed that there is a really, really strong correlation between the further that I evolve, yeah, the further that I push the envelope, the further that I move out of my comfort zone to try and move into something more. And by more, I don't mean better, I just mean more, you know, into something more in my life. The more that I do that, the deeper that I have to dig in the opposite direction, like to clear the blockages that are in the way of allowing me to move in this direction. Like, it's fucking crazy, yeah. Like, who knew that editing and releasing YouTube shorts would mean that my 2-year-old self would have to let go of receiving love from their mother? Like, who knew? But that is what it is. In order for me to push through this, in order for me to get to this point where I feel like that is okay, you know, that it's okay for me to do that, I have to go deep, deep, deep down into the thing that is blocking that from happening. And it's like, I feel like I'm just like, and have been since I went on this journey, I've just been like stripping layers. So it started with things that were more current, and then the more that I moved forward, the more I had to strip away on this side, and the deeper and deeper it's got. And it's like, I feel like I have to excavate in order to excel, you know. And I talk about that a lot to my kids. I talk about that building yourself is kind of like building a house, you know, that you really do have to excavate. You have to dig out before you can even start to build your foundation, before you can even lay your first brick on the ground that is actually visible for anybody to see. And I think that that's like a big cycle, life cycle. And then I think that happens in small cycles as well within your life, within different areas, within different themes. And I really think that this, like, is the real meaning of like what core wounding is, like what this deep trauma is that I'm trying to talk about at the moment, that I feel it would be beneficial for everybody to take the time to try and experience and process and resolve, if that's possible, you know. I feel like this really is where your self-limiting belief systems come from, and they only turn up, they only show up, and they only show up at the depth. Well, they only show up when you are trying to put yourself in a place that is uncomfortable so that you can grow in some way. And they only show up at the depth that they do if you are trying to excel. I feel like the wounding that you choose to process is only as deep as far as you want to go. So what does all of this have to do with attachment? Well, I guess with that, when I think about 40-year-old me wanting to excel in this way and 2-year-old me having to let go of what she needed in order for that to happen, I think it is like there's just like a cycle around the way that we have attachment to things and needing to let go of those attachments, needing to let go of the things, the association to those things. Like, even when I think about the association that I have of what it means to be a mum, like not what it means for me to be a mum, which obviously comes out of all of that, but like what it means for me to have a mum. Like, even when I think about like the expectations, like, then, as I said at the beginning, how those expectations become my perception and how that perception becomes my reality. It's like what I wanted is really just what I expected. And letting go of those expectations, even the negative ones, is, I think, a constant cycle that we go through. And it's painful, but it's really necessary, And I guess the whole thing about attachment, I think what I'm trying to convey about growth and attachment, or growth and detachment, is that it's not to disassociate. It's not to just say, well, if that's the case, I'm not going to attach to anything, because you attach to stuff before you even had a choice. Like, it's already done. Like, there's nothing you can do about it, right? But I think it's to say that actually, really, when it comes down to it, that we are really only in relationship with ourselves. We're only in relationship with our attachment, our beliefs, our expectations, our associations with things, like, and our wounds and our trauma as well. These are the things that we're attached to. And that's why when we detach from what's inside of us, my 2-year-old self letting go, me allowing myself to let go of something that doesn't really exist out here in the real world, that frees us in the now. Because it was only the attachment and our perspective and our perception and our expectations and all of those things that are inhibiting us from moving forward. So if I can understand that the relationship that I have with this lives within myself, and I can free myself from that, then I will be free in the now to fucking soar. And that's what's been rattling around my head for the last day. And I thought I'd just put it out there. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that that's helpful. And oh no, let's talk about some things that I'm grateful for. Okay. Oh my God. Fuck me. You know what I'm grateful for today? Electricity. Like, even though I've just said, well, it's not all about those physiological needs, but actually today I'm really grateful for electricity. I'm grateful to have a fridge, and I'm grateful to have some cold water, because it is fucking stonking hot out there and it's insane. It's insane. What else am I grateful for? I'm grateful to have good friends that want to support me on this journey, who want to talk to me about the things that are going on for me. And even if it's not 100% helpful, or it's stuff that I've already heard or whatever, I'm really grateful for the investment of people, the investment of love that I have in some of the people that are around me. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful to myself today. I'm grateful to myself for making a decision to not stagnate, to choose to go into the dark, and show it love so that it could be set free, so that more light could come in. Because it's not an easy job. And just the last cheeky one, I'm really grateful to everything that is coming for me in the future. I feel like it's good. Okay, that's it. That's all for today.